Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the ice. Today's program, we're talking a little bit about player development on and off the ice and some of that advising that's going on, potentially some issues that could be addressed, some issues that aren't being addressed. Not just the skills, but also the mental aspects of the game, preparation, and making sure you're putting your best foot forward every day, all the time, every time. Because with these limited amount of exposures to players these days, as well as the limited amount of regular season and ice times, we have to make sure that the players are ready. And two of those gentlemen that are doing that out in Alberta, Matt Gorman and Scott Morin with MCN Sports Advising. They're going to come join us and talk to us a little bit about the ideas and the opportunities they're providing players off the ice. As well, Scott's been working very hard with the advising aspects, but also with this idea called floorball. I'm pretty excited because I love smacking wiffle balls in every sport possible. He's going to show us the game and how it provides that extra bit of performance and player development off the ice. So please welcome Matt Gorman and Scott Morin. As promised. Oh, they changed on me now. Scott's up top, Matt's on below. Two gentlemen from MCN Sports Advising. Good day, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Good. Yourself?
Fabulous. It's beautiful. Lots of snow on the ground. Hopefully it melts on the weekend for Halloween. That's all I got to say. The bottom line is, gentlemen, let's get right to it. We've got so much fluidity, so many changes happening every week with sports, especially hockey. Allowing players to play, come into the rink, not play in the rink. But the one thing that remains the same is what a player can do off the ice for their player development and their training. So, Matt, I'm going to start with you. Give us a quick little introduction of who you are and how you developed MCN Sports Advising.
So I'm in Alberta, born, raised, played hockey here, played through the system of the minor hockey. Went on to play in the Alberta Junior. I'm an alumni of the Alberta Junior here. Went into the minors. I was a suitcase throughout the minors, playing in the pro leagues in the States, and then eventually into Europe for 10 seasons. After living the grind of basically the highs and lows of the game, which brought me to the idea of guiding and assisting young players and their families through the sometimes grueling ends of hockey, giving perspective in my own experiences and having other players that have played the game and other people that have good knowledge within the game of hockey to be able to give valuable information to the families, assisting their kids that have aspirations to go on to play university hockey or into the pro systems. I do a lot of the skill development throughout the associations in Alberta. Scott's one of my guys that works closely with me as well. Basically just offering each coach and their players a little different way of looking at it, maybe shooting a puck or stick handling, that type of idea. Just another voice that would essentially come in instead of the coaches, practicing, especially now with the situation where there's a lot of practices and less games. A coach can call and depend on a guy like ourselves here and basically have another voice for the kids.
You mentioned the idea of grueling. Talk about real quick grueling for you when you were playing in your highs and lows, your suitcase style of hockey, you said, to the grueling aspect of what Scott and maybe that generation is facing and how it changes in a definition.
So basically it's so competitive, the hockey world. There's limited spaces on teams, limited roles for players to fill basically, and there's a lot of close caliber kids when it comes down to making teams or competing for spots in programs. It just it's a grueling battle because you never really know what you need to do in order to make that team that you may want to play on and the little details as far as that end. The difference, I guess, from that time to now is it was it's a little bit more geared toward the smaller player nowadays, as opposed to the bigger players before the '04 lockout, which I played at 5'8", and it came with a lot of challenges at that point because every team was looking for a guy that could skate, stick handle, and play a tough man's game. Where I thought I could do that, but I just didn't have the size to be able to accommodate that.
So your motto in life was you can't hit what you can't catch, right, Scott? Matt being 5'8". That's basically how it rolled, eh?
Yeah, you got to be able to skate and get out of the way of those big guys. That's for sure.
I was one of those big guys, and I loved putting them through the walls. Let the ambulance sort them out, so to speak. Scott, you're a little bit younger than both of us, but give us a little quick bio on how you enjoyed this game, what you bring to MCN, and what you see in the difference in the player approach in terms of preparation off the ice.
Yeah, so I grew up in Spruce Grove, played competitive hockey my whole life, got into the floorball off the ice through a hockey academy I participated in. And through there, I loved floorball, played it all the way till I was 17, 18 at the world junior level for that sport. And as far as preparation off the ice for kids nowadays, it's so important. They're under the microscope constantly, and it's so important to be educated about all aspects of the game just because you never know if they're going to get interviewed or asked through scouting or coaches, and they always got to be prepared.
Let's talk about that microscope, that scrutiny. We'll start with you, Scott, because you see a lot more of it with the players nowadays. I'm going to describe it as a double-edged sword. It's good on one side. It can be detrimental on the other side. How do you create that balance for a player and explain to them the importance of, your character, your best foot forward, but also at the same time still remembering that anything you do or say, especially in the social media world, never goes away?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially look at now, especially with the Anaheim Ducks prospect just recently. He's facing backlash for comments that he made when he was 13, 14. That stuff sticks with you. And at the end of the day, your name is all you have, right? So it's all about your reputation and how you treat it and how you sculpt it on social media and in the hockey world.
You mentioned the play from Anaheim. There's also a draft pick from Phoenix this past year that's got a very checkered background in his minor hockey days. Matt, what do you do to what you're talking with parents, you're talking with the player? How do you correct that mental aspect of the game and tell a certain team or a certain league that I've changed, I've moved on, I've transgressed, I'm ready to put those actions behind me and move forward?
Well, that's really in conversations with coaches, because they're always tainted at the younger ages, just like Scott had the example there. And from our end of conversations, it basically comes down to helping the coaches understand, and a lot of them are the same as us. They understand kids are kids, and we're expecting them to be like pros and adults and speak and carry themselves that way. Kids change basically from month to month, and you talk to coaches at the midget levels that have had some of the kids, at a younger peewee age. And I know I'm going with the categorization of peewees and bantams and that type of idea. But basically, there's coaches that will go, well, you know what, in the peewee stages, this young player was a nightmare in the dressing room. And it's our responsibility to discuss the character of these players at this time as opposed to 2 years ago. We've all made those little, mistakes. Maybe we spoke before we thought, little things like that, and spoke out of turn. And I think the most important thing to remember is these are kids. They're young kids that are feeling their way through life. And if we think that they're going to say all the right things all the time, it's a really fine line.
We see professionals, we see people in power doing that daily. So how can we give kids? We got to give kids the benefit of the doubt because they're still learning minds. Matt, are we working with teams or working with individuals? What development scheme do you enjoy the most?
So basically, we, as a company, we work on both ends. We're to provide the coaches in the junior leagues, NCAA, or the pro teams with players that we see potential in from a character reference and an athletic reference. Okay, assisting the teams with credible information. So we want to in turn help the teams and all the teams better their programs because it betters our hockey communities. We want to see the kids come through that are dedicated to the game. So we work on behalf of the kids' best interest and the team's best interest. It's basically up to the players to go in and create that success with the team. And it's our responsibility to open up those doors and give credible information as far as evaluations. I won't go and say that a player is going to score 50 goals when he's had 3. So it's really important that we try to find a fit for both ends of things. So we work close and we respect the teams as a business, and we respect and appreciate the kids as kids and going through the system and trying to protect their best interests all together along with the teams. So we work closely with both ends of things, and we want to see a good fit for the players and the teams as best we can.
Scott, from a one-on-one perspective, who do you enjoy working with most, the younger kids or the older ones?
I mean, I enjoy both, honestly. They're both so different. The older kids are a little more outgoing and starting coming into their shells, whereas the younger kids are a little more shy and standoffish. But for me, I'd say the older kids just a bit more, just because they're starting to get at that level where they grasp an understanding more, and you can really get at them and motivate them more. Whereas a younger kid, you can't tell if it's just a hobby or he's just in it just for the love of the game at that point.
So you still see kids potentially at that participation level, whereas the older ones, they've decided that they want to make the drive to the next level. That's when you've decided that as a player, how then do you define your progress with those older players, and what model or what game plan do you present them, knowing that they have to get from point A to point B and make sure that they're putting their best foot forward to make it to the next level?
The biggest thing is communication, right? We're constantly staying in contact with these guys and getting a grasp of where they are and where they feel they are amongst their peers. And from there, we just step by step go through detailed skills that they need to work on or off-ice stuff that they need to improve to help them get that next advantage to take them to the next level.
So give us some ideas of some drills, some programming that you've been working over the past little bit, knowing that there are more opportunities for practice time because there's been less opportunity for playing.
Yeah, so the downside, right? No games because of this COVID, but there has been more practice time. So, for example, we got one kid who he was a net front presence on the power play, but wasn't really seeing much ice time. So we decided to just work on his tips and quick shot, quick releases in front of the net. So just little skill details in and around the game that can help them improve within the system that their coaches use.
So you're working with the team, looking for their opportunity to use that or utilize that player in their best potential.
Yeah.
How is it that you're able to? How are you able to communicate that to the players, saying, let's say for example, they want to be that 50-goal scorer, but they're going to be that bottom 6 forward that's going to be their best fit on that team.
That's just communicating and garnering their expectations. So we want to communicate with the coach as well as the player, so there's no gray areas amongst the players and the coaches, so that there's a good communication line so that they know where their role is. However, on their spare time, they can still be working on their skills and the details of the game so that eventually maybe the next team that they play for, they have that role or they're not getting pushed down in the shuffle on the coaches.
Matt, you want to touch on that a little bit?
So one thing on that part where it comes down to being a third line, for example, and a player, so the way that we look at things is basically making sure that they're prepared for those minutes that they're going to get. As a third or fourth line player, you always have to be ready to perform when your name is called to get on the ice, and you have a 45-second shift to demonstrate that you belong. And it's important that throughout the game, and when it comes down to it, if they want to be a 50-goal scorer, every time they're on that shift, there's got to be goals set. Maybe it's 2 to 3 shots in that shift. Every time they're on the ice, there should be a goal of 2 to 3 shots. And if you're having 3 shots in a shift, for example, 2 of those better be goals. And that comes from preparation the night before. So we speak of those things. I believe these kids can shoot the puck now. These kids can all just fire that puck. And it comes down to a few details as far as the mental side, preparing the proper ways, believing, confidence-wise, going into practices. They're practicing. You're on the 3rd, 4th line. Every time you step on the ice, you need to put the puck in the net. And that's just a habit. It's a habit. And if the kids start to think that, they'll believe that. And then that 4-goal season will turn into 50.
Absolutely. No, every player has a role on that team. We can't have 12, 50-goal scorers. And it's not, and it doesn't mean that you can't practice those skill sets off the ice as well to prepare yourself, like you said, Scott, for that next team. Speaking of practicing those skill sets, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about a sport you love, Scott, and you've been involved with a lot of your career. And we're going to get clarification on why it's called floorball, not unihockey, correct? So we'll be right back here on the ice. Back with Matt Gorman and Scott Morin. Boys, I got to ask, floorball. You've got sticks, I don't. What do they look like? Okay, so how long is that?
This one's about, I think, 36 inches.
And Matt?
Yeah, this one is just a kid stick, maybe about 28.
So they make intermediate and senior hockey sticks. They're rounded, from what it looks like.
Yeah.
And there's a open air blade on it.
Yeah.
Scott, tell me how you got involved with floorball and not unihockey.
Yeah. So growing up, we had a hockey academy locally. It was Hockey Canada, I believe, provided it, and through there they introduced us to the sport of floorball with these sticks. But little did we know that the brand was actually just called Unihawk, as you can see here. Unihawk.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we all assumed it was called Unihockey. So we ended up putting together a couple of bantam age teams, and we ended up going to Toronto for a Canada Cup, which is the national tournament. And when we first went over there, we were all calling it unihockey, and everyone was like, "What are you guys talking about? Like, what?" And we were like, "Yeah, unihockey. Isn't this what the sport is?" And they're like, "No, this is called floorball." And so there's us, the Western guys, having no idea what's going on. Everyone's like, "Who are these new guys calling it unihockey?" But yeah, it turns out it's called floorball.
Who are these guys? What are they doing?
Yeah.
They're making a travesty of this game here, right?
Yeah, we ended up winning it the first year we went down too, so they really weren't too happy with us.
Yeah, you showed them who's boss then, right, Scott?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So give us some rules that are different. How does the sport work? Obviously, it's played on a surface besides ice, or is it not played on ice, is it?
No, it's played on like a kind of like a sponge court, and it's really popular in Scandinavia. It's played on the same court as like a handball court would be on, so there's a little bit of forgiveness there, but there's a lot of grip. It's about 59 to 56 feet wide, about 118 to 131 feet long. So it's a decent sized court, and they have 20-inch boards, so about a foot and a half, 2 feet of boards that go around. And it's a non-contact, but kind of like professional soccer where there's hardcore bumping and still gets somewhat physical in the corners. But it's definitely a more skill-based, forgiving style of hockey, let's just say. So there's no offsides, there's no icing. There's no real stick contact unless you make contact with the ball first. So you can't be lifting the stick from underneath or coming over top of it. You have to kind of swipe the blade. That's a little different. There is free hits, just like soccer, so you can make set plays whenever the ball goes out of play or there's an infraction that occurs. But yeah, it's a lot of running and it's a lot of skill based type of hockey.
Goaltenders?
Goaltenders have no pads, so they pretty much have like a jumpsuit. The high level ones go barehanded, so there's no blocker or gloves, and they just have a helmet. Yeah.
Okay. Protective gear for the player, is it like shin pads, elbow pads kind of thing, or nothing?
Nothing. High socks, short shorts, t-shirt.
But
That's
have
it.
long legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. So it's almost like field hockey.
Yeah.
Smaller field, of course, kind of like from the the goal line to the center line, and about 2/3 of the ice wide.
Yeah.
5-on-5.
Yeah. 5-on-5.
Okay. How do you relate the skill set from floorball translated into hockey skills for me? How does it improve the skills? I mean, we talk about cross training. Baseball players using the hips, volleyball players using the swing. How does floorball complement ice hockey skills?
I think you're still practicing, right? There's a lot of the plays are still similar. Like there's still similar structures amongst floorball strategies and hockey strategies. But for me, the biggest thing is hand-eye coordination and just the softness of hands that you need to play it. That translates to hockey for sure. Because for me, growing up, I was a good stick handler, but once I started getting into floorball, I really improved my stick handling on the ice. I was just more comfortable making plays all across my body, where as before I'd be a little tunnel vision just in front of me. Whereas floorball really taught me to use your whole body. You can make plays from all around you.
Matt, it's a plastic blade with a plastic wiffle ball, bigger than what you'd see people smacking with drivers on a golf course, but similar to what you see hitting on a baseball bat. That ball comes right off the stick pretty quickly, does it not, Matt Scott?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't stick like glue. It's not.
Oh, yeah. I believe
you may think you got it, and all of a sudden you're walking without a ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe the hardest shot recorded is like 205 kilometers an hour.
What?
So like, yeah, they can. It's on YouTube if you guys want to go look. It's insane. So when I went to Sweden, when I went to Sweden when I was 17, I blocked a shot from a guy from Denmark, and I had like the whole indentations on my leg for a good 3 weeks still.
Man.
Yeah, so they can really whip it.
I know from watching it when we were living in Europe, that would be my off time. So when we weren't practicing or watching hockey, I'd go watch in the gyms there because that's where it was really, really popular. And I was just fascinated by the way that these guys could move the ball. And as you mentioned, there it curves all the time. And the way they could just pass, all different sizes could play the game, which I love that. I love that there was smaller guys able to maneuver and the big guys. If you could run and own a pair of running shoes, you could afford to play floorball. And it's just like our street hockey here, but it's something that I'm excited to get rolling here in our communities around here.
Do you think it's something that could spread nationwide?
Well, we've been doing it for the last 6 years, actually. Before moving into the Spruce Grove side, we had 150 kids enrolled out in just west of Spruce Grove, Edmonton here. And recently, Scotty and I have been chatting about bringing this to the Edmonton area, the Leduc, the surrounding areas where it's an actual a league that we're looking at firing up here, allowing for, like as I mentioned, a cheaper option, just like your soccer or your baseball options. You can go and play this floorball for a reasonable price, and basically what do we pay for these, Scotty? $60 to $70 per stick.
Yeah, on the cheaper end, they're around there.
Yeah, except for if you're I guess you could get carried away, couldn't you? Some of those sticks that you have, Scotty. I wouldn't even want to touch them because I broke it.
Like owning the Bauer, whatever the latest Bauer senior stick is. They get pretty pricey, I'm sure, because of the technology.
Yeah.
They're not quite $400 now, but we're
Okay.
good.
We're good. So what's the net like? Is it the same size as a hockey net or smaller?
It's a little bit smaller, and because the ball moves so quick, so halfway through the top netting, like where the water ball would sit, about halfway in, there's another loose net that just hangs down to the floor that catches the balls. So whereas before, if you play without that, the balls would just bounce in and out because they move so quick.
So somewhat inexpensive, a great way to introduce a hockey aspect to younger kids because the sticks are smaller. I mean, I see a lot of floor hockey being removed because of, it's a two-piece plastic whippy kind of stick in the gyms, right? They mark the gym floors, so that's not always a good thing for the custodian. But at the same time, these sticks and whatnot could be an interesting way to introduce hockey when there's no ice available, or you just want to work on your own personal skills in the basement. I mean, a wiffle ball doesn't do as much damage as 6 ounces of rubber in a puck, so that's a good thing, Mom and Dad. Think about that. Do check it out on YouTube as well. I mean, do you have a link on your MCN website with floorball yet?
We do. We have some videos and stuff from the past with the situation that we're faced with right now. We haven't had any recent videos uploaded on there, but we have some videos on there if people want to go on there and check out a few of the past floorball games that we've hosted. That type of thing, some skills development programs that we did. They can go on our website on the MCN.ca website there.
That's all. You guys get Scott out there in the basement to do some stick handling drills.
I'm excited to see. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think Scotty's got plans for an older, like an adult league too. Hey, Scotty, is that what you were kind of thinking?
Yeah.
Was getting some of the older guys?
Yeah, so when I was from ages 14 to 17, each year we'd send two to three teams to Toronto every May long weekend for the Canada Cup tournament. And so all of us guys, the last three years, we haven't been playing that much, and we're all eager to get back into it since all this COVID stuff's restricting hockey time. So yeah, there's about 20 to 30 of us that are itching to get back at it.
Why is the sport, I mean, you talk about going to Toronto every May long. What other provinces or teams were representing in that tournament, Scott?
There's a lot from Ontario. Some come from Quebec. A couple from the East Coast, like Nova Scotia area. We were the only ones that came from out west. I do know there is a little bit like a little league going on in Vancouver, and it's got the potential to really pop, though, I think. And
like I said,
we can.
I haven't I'm a little bit familiar with the sport because I've seen it in Europe, seen it on video, like Matt has suggested, and I've talked to a lot of players from Europe that did use some of this development off ice as well. I'm just amazed that there aren't programs here. I mean, obviously due to certain circumstances present, but previous. Why hasn't this taken over ball hockey, or why hasn't this been introduced to the younger age for floor hockey aspects? I mean, it sounds safer. It sounds like it's easy. It's not very economically straining. I think it'd be a wonderful way to introduce, like you said, hand-eye coordination, movement with the ball, important skill sets that kids can translate into other sports.
Your hand speed alone just changes, when you think of if you're holding that thing and you get that moving that top hand and understanding that your stick handling comes from that wrist movement. And once you get that going, if you see Scott doing his stick handling, it's impressive and it relates to hockey in a big way. So basically, if a player were to get where they wanted to go, hey, I want to be the best stick handler on the ice, this would be an ideal situation for just grabbing one of those things and showing that they can do it just from their wrist and working that thing.
You don't curve that bottom blade, do you, Scott?
No, you can a bit if you want. I mean, on a couple other sticks, I fooled around. I put it in the toaster and put a big pocket so I could do some tricks and stuff. But yeah, you can bend them a bit if you want.
Okay, so usually you're going back to the old Bobby Hall Northland flat stick on the back in Matt's days, right? And he knows what I'm talking about there.
You betcha. Scotty watches reruns all the time, so he knows what you're talking about.
I know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, you talk about getting the RT lie 6, 3 degrees, offset, right, spider Y2 banana. No,
Yeah.
I just want a little bit of an underthrow at the end, right, Scott? That's all I need.
Oh yeah, the old Messier, right? The old Messier tip on it, and you can just pull it and then fire.
Yeah,
For
me, it was
wing,
the Sakic curve.
Yeah,
I love the
exactly.
Sakic curve. Yeah, that was it for me.
So you were a Sakic guy growing up. Matt, what was your stick go-to back in the day?
The coffee, the old Paul
PMP 7050 Sherwood?
Oh man, that's impressive that you remember. Yeah, I just remember the coffee.
I sold my first job when I was 15, 16 years old was working at a hockey store. God bless them. And I spent literally 7.5 out of my 8-hour shift in the stick room, just telling kids how to pick a stick. And instead of buying one or two, they bought dozens. And I was so happy. I was like, yes. My stick growing up was the Coho 2290 Yager and Lemieux. My brother used the Lemieux because it was a straight curve, and the Yager was that undertow, had that little lip at the top, so you could show him where Mama hides the cookies after.
Nice.
But the wiffle ball, I'm amazed because Scott, like you said, your stick handling abilities improved so much because it's coefficient of friction between a wiffle ball and a plastic end is not there. Like you have to be super smart and creative with controlling that ball on the back end of that stick. Can you tip in? Can you have your sticks above the waist and get a tip in goal? Can you do something like that? Okay.
Yeah, so waist and below is the rules. But yeah, if you can tip one, that's good on you because it moves pretty quick. Yeah, they move quick, and they have a different type of shooting style in Europe too. It's called a sweep shot.
Okay.
Where they kind of start the wrist shot, I guess, from behind their body, and they torque their body into a whipping motion, and that's where they get most of the power. And it's so hard to read the ball. It comes off the sticks because they curve, and the guys at the high level, they know how their ball shapes in the air.
That's impressive. I would lose if I had to torque my body that much. I feel like I would lose possession of the ball, and I'd be more of a snapshot kind of guy because that's what I grew up with, right?
Yeah,
using that snapshot mentality, having it on the stick right at the 0 degree level and just snapping. But it's truly a cool sport. Definitely check out the YouTube videos. Make sure you look up floorball, not unihockey, because if you look up unihockey, you might not find much.
Yeah, some might pop up. I'm sure floorball might pop up.
I think I'm guilty for that one too, Theo. I think I said unihockey floorball, so
that's okay. I made that comes out. I mean, sometimes that correction is needed because if you look for it, you're like, oh, okay. And in fact, that you cleared Unihawk as the stick company. I mean, that's kind of cool. So
yeah. Actually, another popular stick company is called Salming, and that's Boyer Salming. He started his own. Yeah, he started his own floorball company. So it's one of the leading floorball companies too out there.
Well, there you have it. Boys, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. It's been cool to talk a little bit about advising, keeping the boys mentally focused and physically on top of their game, as well as introducing the potential of another sport enhancing player development off the ice. Scott Morin, Matt Gorman, anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. That was fun.
Look forward to catching up with you guys as well. Good luck. Stay safe. Be healthy here on the ice on Amateur Sports TV. Scott, I want to see some videos of some stick handling and some firing of some balls, wiffle balls, that is. We'll say goodbye, guys. Thanks so much for joining us here on the ice.